In this lesson, we need to pay attention to certain things while we go deeper. So if I zoom out for a second, so we looked at the section, we introduced a course, and we talked about the context. And this last lesson under this section is practically going to be talking about some important principles while we go along with this course. So when it comes to the use of AI in a workplace, let's address the elephant in the room. The thing is that if you bring in any information into AI, that's going to be sitting in a giant pool of data that is out there, public, and you have the option to make sure that whatever you're submitting to the AI is not sensitive. It's not something that is going to be a detriment to the company. However, before we go down to that, let's talk about the concept of AI. A lot of people are panicking that AI is going to be replacing your jobs. It is, in a way, if you look at so many layoffs that have been advertised and all that. Yes, practically yes. It depends on the industry. However, it's important to understand that AI exists to assist humans, not replace humans. Depending on how you contextualize it, depending on how you implement it, depends on what field you're in. Now, the people that are heavily impacted at the moment are more to do with development workers, like software development workers, people who code. But even with that, I think there is a lot of communication now in the media about a lot of companies regretting that because now the cost involved in using AI is now almost as equal as hiring someone full time, So there's an argy bargy going on, and we don't know where that's going to be. But the reality is, not to be dismissed, that AI exists to assist humans, not replace humans. With those principles in mind, let's also address some other elephants in the room in terms of responsible use of AI. Now, when it comes to using AI, whenever you interact with it, whatever you get, you are the custodian of that output. It's on your head, and it depends on how you use it. So, what I normally suggest to colleagues or whoever I'm talking about when I'm trying to teach anything to do with AI is that whatever whatever you get an output, whatever you interact with the AI, what you need to be doing are some of these things. Like you need to make sure you're checking for accuracy. You always need to make sure that you're verifying the facts that the AI is giving you as a response. You need to always check the tone. When I say check the tone, what I'm trying to say here, what comes to my mind here is, when you're writing an email to someone or when you're interacting with someone professionally, and the email has its own tone, it has its own way that has been set from the beginning, from the first email to the next reply. There's some sort of existing tone that's already being reflected. So when you're trying to use AI to, get a summary of all the whole information in the thread, and you're deciding to use AI to come up with a reply, you need to make sure that you know what that tone is and make sure that the AI gives you a response that's matching that tone. So you wouldn't want to be getting an email that's very professional and then you're replying with a kind of like a semi-formal. So you need to always make sure that you're checking the tone of whatever you're trying to output using AI. And you should always review sensitive information. Now, reviewing sensitive information, it's kind of there's a dilemma in this situation in the sense that one, you need to be aware of what you're putting into the AI to get an output. So these are things like PII, personal information, like people's date of birth, people full name, address, and all that. So all those things are sensitive information. You need to always make sure that you're not putting those into the AI because if anything happens, it's out there. You know, even though at enterprise level, most organizations have some SLAs or some things that are being put in place or guardrails make sure that the data sits within their own private cloud, their private space, depending on whatever the infrastructure setup is in your company. However, you should always make sure that you're not putting in what is sensitive because it doesn't make any sense. Why are you putting out someone's sensitive information into public? As well as you need to also review outputs to make sure that whatever output you get from the AI also doesn't contain sensitive information. Now, in the sense that whatever you're sending, unless it's deemed necessary, if you're sending something that is to do with sensitive information, and no matter how you set up your workflow, whatever, and you get an output that actually do contain sensitive information, it's up to you to know how to use it. The bottom line is you need to always review the kind of information you put into AI and the kind of information you pull out of AI and how you use it. Or even the European Union, so there's always going to be that concept of GDPR. Some of the sensitive information, like we would talk about, would be confidential HR records. Like HR records, like if you take someone's CV, I know CV is a lot of public information. Like, people just apply for jobs anyhow, and obviously, yes, but what's on TVs? First name, surname, where they worked, where they schooled. Some people put their address, their mobile numbers, a whole lot of information. So a lot of that is confidential data in a way. However, when we talk about confidential HR records, like you're not going to be uploading someone's sick cert or someone's leave request or someone giving an HR confidential information regarding whatever they're doing or whatever disputes they're trying to tackle in the office or whatever. You don't have to be putting passwords into AI. You don't have to be putting financial data into AI. Well, it depends in terms of what kind of financial data. Like a lot of companies publish an annual report, an annual report that has a simple financial data like the balance sheets, whatever their quarter returns are, and all that. Yeah, those fine. However, I know there are some sensitive financial data you don't have to put it into the AI. Things like international bank account number, the IBAN. You don't want to put your bank account details into AI, and a lot of things that when it comes to finance in the realm of finance, you don't want to be putting them into AI. Legal data as well, and personal information that we discussed. Now, having said all that, if that's all understood in terms of how to use AI responsibly, then we can now talk about what useful way AI can be used in the workplace. We know AI drafts. We know it writes. It summarizes. We know it brainstorms. It does a lot of things. But when it comes to using those, there's always that element of using what we call human approval, whereby whatever the AI gives you as an output doesn't stop there. You have to audit it. You have to proofread it. You have to make sure that whatever it's giving out to you is properly checked in a way that you can then be confident in using it in whatever way you want to use it. It could be that it's written in a way that offends someone, even though you prompted it not to offend anyone. Then you have to manually edit maybe one or two lines from the email before you send it to whoever you're sending it to. Now, when it comes to using AI in a modern interface, in a workplace, a lot of people find it difficult to break the ice. When I say break the ice, like if you wanted to write an email, you don't know how to start it, or if you're writing a book, or if you're writing something, an article, whatever, and you don't know how to start, or you're being in a cage where you have a lot of ideas, but you just don't know how to actually initiate it. You don't know how to start it. Things like that, AI can help you with the first draft. When you see the first draft, then things just start stringing along and connecting dots at the back of your mind. Something like that is what AI can help you with, and then it helps you do the other basic things like summary, structuring, formatting, idea generation, and then when it comes to all of that, whatever you get as an output from any of these, what you need to do then is make sure that you use your own human judgment, and you need to have your own approval mode, whatever guide, whatever principles you're using to evaluate whatever the output is. And then based on that, use your own judgment to make your own decisions and make sure things are in accordance with whatever compliance configurations that you have to upload to. And finally, accountability. If AI gives you an output and you use it for something else and then it blows back, you're not going to be calling the AI out to say it's the AI's fault. No, it's going to be your fault because you used it. So these are some of the things that I thought I'll just spend a little more time to just have a quick rant about. And then while we have all of that at the back of your mind, then we can dive into the nitty gritty. Okay? So I'll see you in the next section where it's going to get more interesting.